Hi everyone, welcome to the Buffett and Beyond Research Stock of the Week, and we're going over Carrier Global, and it's been up 26% in 1.5 months or year to date. So yeah, folks, this is something to look at, and we have to look at those numbers very, very closely. But remember, if you want to walk on this beach like Jimmy Buffett once did, you've got to learn how to invest even better than Warren Buffett does now. And let's go over Carrier Global. Well, it's a leader in an intelligent climate. And boy, that's a very, very important word right now. Intelligent climate and energy solutions with the focus on providing differentiated, digitally enabled lifestyle solutions for its customers. Wow, that's a mouthful. But Carrier operates in three segments. And the one that we're interested in is HVAC, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. Now we come down here and they purchased the Climate Solution arms right down here, purchased the Climate Solutions arm of Weissman about 2 years ago for about $14 billion. And prior to 2020, Carrier was a subsidiary of UTX Corporation. So they've been around, even though this company is a standalone, it's not been around that long. UTX has been around a long time. Okay, let's go to Carrier and let's look at the numbers compared to the average stock out there. Now the average stock is in blue, Carrier is in green. The clean surplus return on equity. Now remember, this is a cleaned up return on equity, and it's not even comparable to the traditional accounting ROE, but it is comparable to other companies, and that's why we can use it so efficiently. Now, it's up 19.5%, while the average stock is up 13.5%, and that's a return on equity. And how we look at this is that, would you rather put your money in a bank that's paying you 13.5% or one that's paying you 19.5%? Now, when we come to net income growth, it's below the average stock net income growth. And when we did this stock about 2 years ago, it was above that. But don't forget, Carrier is in the housing business, as well as something else that we're going to bring out, which is very, very important. And the housing business has not been well at all in the past year and a half. Revenue down 2.8%. It was way above that. It was about 9% just 2 years ago. And these are the 5-year averages. So we are looking at a stock here that has below average net income growth and below average revenue growth right now. But over time, it has been way above that. And that's because the housing industry is in the doldrums. But what has been coming out since all of this? Those AI build-out data centers. And that's where Carrier is involved, because those data centers need unbelievable amounts of energy. In fact, 40% of the energy goes on cooling the computers and all the semiconductors that they have in those places. And those places are huge. You've all seen pictures of them. I mean, they're bigger than airport and airplane hangars. So yeah, they are huge. And that's where Carrier comes in, because they are being called upon to cool that. So 40% of all that energy you're hearing about that all these AI data centers need, 40% of that goes to cooling. That's why we're looking at Carrier once again. Now, when we look at the clean surplus ROE, we can see that it was really nice down in here until the housing dumps in here. And it was only last year that it just went down to 18.1. Now for next year, up to 18.3. But these numbers are going to go up. In fact, they were higher before, but just came down a little bit because of housing. But the data centers are going to make up for that. Retention rate's pretty good, because it's putting 70% of the money it's making back into itself in order to grow. Now, years to pay debt, it's a little high for us, but not too high for Warren Buffett. He says if a company takes all the money it's making, how many years will it take to pay the debt? His rule of thumb is 5 years or less. Ours is really 2.5 years, or 3 years or less, and this is 3.9 right now. But we expect this net income to go up. Recent dividend at 1.4%. So let's see what 1 year has done. Black line is the S&P 500, and we can see that it has done pretty good over 1 year, up 14%. Red line is the XHB, that's the home building ETF, and we can see that it has been doing not as well as the S&P 500 over the past 6 months, but all of a sudden it came back and now it is above the S&P 500. Blue line is Carrier, and you can see they were way up here, came all the way down, and now all of a sudden they're starting to move up. So we're going to see this, take a closer look, but first let's look at 5 years. Over 5 years, again, black line is the S&P 500. Red line is the home building. So you can see they've done pretty well. And our top stocks in the home building, if you watch the ETF videos, our top stocks are more than double this ETF. And Carrier is one of those stocks. So here was Carrier all the way up here. And last year, so this is last year. Last year you could see they went from here all the way down to here. So they did not do well last year. And with the housing industry just kind of in the doldrums there, everything kind of came down. And then all of a sudden, Carrier is shooting up because it's getting contracts to cool those AI data centers. Now let's look at year to date. Black line is the S&P 500. Red line is housing. And the blue line is Carrier. Carrier is up 26.9% in 1.5 months. That's an amazing, amazing return. So this is why we have been talking over the past couple of weeks about the housing industry coming into its own. One more slide here. Yeah, we looked at the top ETFs, and these are mostly the S&P 500 ETFs. So they have their own unique 11 different sectors. Energy, well, gold has been on top all year long. This is the first week in which gold has finally, and this is year to date, this is the first week that gold has dropped from number 1 down to number 5 here. And energy is at the top right now, but look what's in number 2. Second highest over this year to date is home construction, and number 4, home builders. And look at this, 18% and 17%. And just to let you know, our top stocks are up 26.5%. Our top stocks, we put the home construction and home builders together in one portfolio. So if you subscribe to the ETF portfolio and the computer program for ETFs, we put the home construction and the home builders in one portfolio, and that is up 26.5% in a year and a half. So yeah, folks, this is why we are looking at Carrier, because Carrier is up 26%, our portfolio is up 26%. Home construction and home builders are number 2 and 4 this year in the ETFs, in the ETF sectors, mostly of the S&P 500. Now, GLD is not in the S&P 500 group, and neither is ITB, the home construction, but we use both the ITB and the XHB as our portfolio, and we put them together this year, or the top stocks we put together, up 26%. So that's why we like Carrier, because not only are they in the home building, which is just starting to pick up, and if you remember the newsletter from just the other day, in the newsletter, we had a report from Kiplinger newsletter, and Kiplinger says building is starting to pick up. Home buying is starting to pick up, which means building is starting to pick up. So after all these years where home building and home construction has done so well, past year and a half in the doldrums, it's just starting to pick up now. So these, and of course the market is always ahead of itself, so the home builders and the home construction are doing very, very well this year. In fact, they're among the top ETFs or ETF groups for this year to date. So folks, we had a tumultuous week this week, and it's the first week in 5 that the NASDAQ is trying to have a positive weekend here. So the semiconductors have been weak, the tech stocks have been weak, and the home builders are starting to pick up because that's where the market believes the next big move is going to take, and they are buying those stocks before they start making more money. But these are stocks that have made money all their lives, so, and a good part of our lives too, folks. So anyway, remember, if you want to walk on this beach and sail into the sunset like Jimmy Buffett used to do, you've got to learn how to invest even better than Warren Buffett does now. All right, folks, go out for the weekend, be safe, and we'll see you back here in a couple of days.